Hi everyone, my name is Alex Surro, and welcome to the Validating Podcast, a radio show that strives to make any listener smile. Each episode will feature a new guest who will share what makes them unique. Filled with fun games, exciting questions, and inspiring stories, this podcast is aimed towards encouraging anyone to be happy and confident with who they are. As always, comments are encouraged and positivity will always be appreciated. For now, let's sit back, relax, and get on with this week's episode. I hope you all enjoy the Validating Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the second season of the Validating Podcast. I'm always excited for these, but today's very special for many reasons. I am Alex Surro, if you do not know, and as always, I just want to spread positivity and joy into your day, into your life, whatever it may be. So today's guest is a good friend of mine, and what's so special about her is that we haven't really chatted in quite a while. We kind of exchanged messages here and there, and we used to go to high school together, but now that's been several years ago, and that's crazy for me to say, but I always look back on high school with a happy heart because of the people I met, including this wonderful person. She's always so positive and encouraging to everyone around her. From the moment I met her, she was always so smiley and ready to take on new challenges and inspire me to do the same. And she works hard. I've seen this more recently, and we'll talk about why in just a minute, but she is so devoted, motivated, and wants to do the best she can and put good into this world. So without blabbing too much, she is Sierra.
Woo!
Hello. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're here. So Sierra, why don't you introduce yourself for someone that might not know you?
Okay, so my name is Sierra Smither. I am currently 23 years old. I live in Ashland, Massachusetts. Well, my parents live here. I've grown up here, went to high school here, middle school in Massachusetts, elementary school in Massachusetts. I went to Hampton University for undergrad, which is a historically Black college in Hampton, Virginia. And then now I am currently in graduate school to get my master's degree in school psychology at Howard University, which is another historically Black college, the number one HBCU. Kamala Harris goes there, so you know.
Wow.
Vice President went to Howard, so it's pretty exciting. And now I currently live in DC.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing now.
That's awesome. Thank you, Sierra. I like to ask my guests how they're doing, and I want you to be as honest or as upfront as you would like.
I'm doing good. I think overall throughout this pandemic has raised my anxiety to like a whole other level. So I definitely have some anxiety just about COVID. There's like a new variant. So like that is always looming in my head. So I would say I'm a little bit like anxiety filled, but I am relieved to be done with my semester. So I'm also just like calm in another way and happy in another way. So that's kind of like the two different sides, the two different balances of how I'm doing.
Yeah, definitely. And I can relate to both of those sides where COVID-19, unfortunately, is still in our lives, even though I think I started this podcast almost a year ago. And it's like, it was there then. And we were like, oh, when COVID's over, and now we're still in it. So, and we can only do the best we can. Like we wear our mask, we're getting our booster, everything like that. So as long as we do our part.
Yeah.
So I also like to play this little game where I ask my guests on a scale of 1 to 10, how is your like feeling? Like 1 being kind of like extremely stressed out, and then 10's like extremely happy. Where do you lie on that scale?
I think in that scale right now, where I am in life is probably like right in the middle, like a solid 5.
Nice.
Just because right now I don't have school stress, but I know that when I do go back to school, I'll be even more stressed. But I'm at home right now in Ashland. So right now I would say right in the middle at about a 5, 6.
Nice. Yeah. I'm also at a solid 5, I would say, where like everything's wrapping up for the semester and we're just kind of like getting through one last push. And yeah. Another thing I like to mention about stress is that I consider myself like a generally stressful person. Like every situation, I always find the stress in it. Even like I'm an optimist, so like I look on the bright side. Yet I'm always overthinking every possibility. Do you relate to that or not so much?
You said overthinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely do overthink. I think it's gotten worse as I've gotten older. I don't know why. Just maybe I'm putting myself in more like a lot of it is COVID, honestly. I really think a lot of it is me overthinking with COVID. I don't think I was like that before. I think that's really where the switch changed.
Mhm.
But yeah, I definitely can relate to that. But I'm trying to work on it, but I definitely can relate.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's just part of who we are. Like, I don't think you can avoid overthinking. I think you can work to try to decrease it. But at the end of the day, if we're going to think what we think, there's not really any way to avoid that. And it's not a bad thing. I think it's good to analyze every aspect of it in some ways.
I agree.
Yeah. And it's a balance like anything else. Why don't we talk about what makes you you? And that just means what makes you unique, stand out of the crowd a little bit. I want to hear something about that.
Um, ooh. I think what makes me unique, I definitely think I have a lot of empathy for other people, and I think I'm able to put myself in other people's shoes a lot and in a way that I don't think other people can. I feel like I'm always understanding what people are going through because empathy and sympathy are different. So I
Right.
think I'm really more of an empathetic person. So I tend to feel a lot of what people close to me do.
Mm.
And so I think that is something that definitely separates me from others.
Yeah. Awesome. And that's never lose that, Sierra. I hope you always stay empathetic because
Me
like
too.
it's unfortunately unique because there's people that aren't empathetic or aren't thinking about other people. So never lose that quality of yourself.
For sure. For sure.
And let's talk about validation because it is the validating podcast after all. So what does validating mean to you? And if you have examples of you being validating or maybe others being validating to you, anything you want to share about that?
Yeah, I think validating is more just like confirmation, either that you're doing the right thing, that someone next to you is doing the right thing. I know that we as human beings probably seek validation just off of like human nature. I definitely seek validation in certain aspects of my life. So I would say like a time when I've received validation is just like in grad school when like I have one-on-ones with my professor and they tell me like you're on the right track, you're doing the right thing. This was a really good point. This is something that's good to research. So just basically me knowing that I'm on the right path to success is definitely what gives me the most validation.
Yeah, well said. And I love the example of grad school because me going through it too, it's a lot of work. And we kind of need that positivity or that encouragement to
Yes.
know that we're on the right track kind of
Yeah,
thing.
I'm like, tell me something.
Yeah, exactly. And while we're on the track, why don't we talk about your new Instagram account that you created pretty recently? Do you want to talk about that?
Yes. Okay, so I created a grad school slash school psychology page. It is called C School Psych, like SI School Psych, because Sierra C.
Right.
Um, so that page is basically for me to document my grad school experience, to talk about what school psychology is, to document being a Black woman in grad school in general, which is a very low statistic. And I just wanted to kind of have something for me to look back on. I also really love social media and like graphic design and like kind of like it's not really like vlogging, but like kind of vlogging through Instagram and just like vlogging my day, doing TikTok, stuff like that. So I kind of just combine all that in one into my Instagram page. And so far, it's been really fun. It's been successful so far. I'm like surprised I have as many followers as I do, and it's been great. So definitely check it out.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, check it out, link in bio.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put a link. I really will. I'm gonna put a link in the description. Anyone who is watching that, click that link. Follow is free. There's no reason not to. You're gonna get some good content from Sierra.
Yes, good
So,
content.
yeah, and it is great.
DC content. I forgot. I also put DC content. So if you're interested in living in Washington, DC, or you want like restaurant reviews, activities, I also do that too.
Yes. Oh my God. That's one of my favorite parts is when you rate the food and you're
Yeah.
like 9 out of 10. I'm like, okay.
Yes, I'm like anyone who's ever in DC. I've had people like be like, I went here and it was so good, and I'm like, oh, that makes me feel good
Yeah.
because the food is always good there.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, it's so fun to me to watch other people's lives through Instagram. And I think you've done a really good job of that on your Instagram, like showing every aspect, the school part, the tough part, because I forget what post it was, but something like this is draining or like this is not like I forget how you phrased it, but you said something about one of the classes that you took this semester, and
Yeah,
it was really real. It wasn't just like, oh, everything's great. Like you showed us what happened, how you felt after it, kind of thing.
yeah, it was bad. I try and be honest. I don't
Mhm.
want to share too much, but I try
Right.
and let people know that it's like not all daisies and rainbows for sure.
Yes,
Really.
exactly. And then that I think that's what we need. Like if any student was looking into that program and like saying like, oh, it's going to be easy, I can do it, no problem. And then see that
Like,
like, oh wait, I'm
no.
going to have to work. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just part of life. Like I'm so glad that you're able to recognize like that was hard. But look at you now. You've submitted like the last paper, whatever that last assignment was. You're done with that. Like you did it. So
Yeah.
so good job with that. I'm very happy
Thank
that you're here on the other end, and hopefully next semester will be like a breeze. Maybe, probably not.
Alex, no. We'll hope. We're gonna hope for it.
Yeah, we'll see. It'll be different. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. So that's all the questions I have for like the introduction part. So now we're gonna go into some games, and I have two planned for you. The
Okay.
first is called Loud and Proud.
Let me show you what it's all about. Check it out. I'm gonna light it up. Yeah, I'm gonna light it up. Check it out. I'm gonna light it up.
So Loud and Proud, this is a super easy game. I played it with Lucas like a year ago, which is crazy. He's a college friend of mine, and he was on this podcast. And all I did was ask him, "What are you proud of?" And please share it with whoever is watching, including myself. So, Sarah, do you have anything that you are proud of yourself for?
Ooh, I'm definitely proud of the success so far of my Instagram page.
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud of just my growth in general. I feel in life definitely become, more mature, just meeting lots of new people, networking. So I'm definitely proud of that. I am proud of just getting into grad school in general.
Yes.
That
True.
is something I'm proud of.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have all my grades back, but it's looking very good so far. So I am
Good.
proud of, my A's that I
Mm-hmm.
worked hard for.
Yes, you did.
Definitely proud of that. And yeah, those are just the major takeaways I would say
Yeah, definitely.
out of right now.
So, question for you, and I don't, yeah, we may touch upon this more in the next game, but what I want to hear about is your process of knowing that you wanted to go to grad school. Like you said, it's not usually like part of like the Black community, right? Like it's kind of rare. And like what motivated you to do that? How was the process and kind of where you are now?
Yeah, I think, well, my professors at Hampton kind of ingrained in us that if you are a psych, I was a psych major for undergrad, that if you
Mhm.
are a psych major, in order to do something in psychology, you have to at least have a master's degree. So if you want to do clinical psych, if you want to be a therapist, if you want to do sports psychology, really anything in psychology where you're actually doing psychology and you're called a psychologist, you need a master's degree or a doctorate degree. With a psych degree, you can be a teacher, you could be like all these other things, but in order to really be a psychologist, you need a master's. And so that was kind of ingrained in me like my junior to senior year. So I was like, okay, after school, that's the next step. In order for me to do something in psychology and not go like a different route,
Mhm.
I'm going to have to get my master's. And so I wanted to get my master's at another HBCU. That was really important to me. HBCU, Historically Black College and University, for those who don't know,
Thank you.
just because my experience was so great in undergrad and it got cut short because of COVID, that I wanted to continue that in graduate school. So I basically applied to like 2 or 3 schools. I also applied to some other schools that are not HBCUs, like just regular colleges. Not regular colleges, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Regular
do. Yeah, yeah.
schools, grad programs.
Mhm.
And so then I got into Howard's, and my little brother is currently at undergrad at Howard. And so I was like, oh, this will be fun. We have a lot of friends and family who went to Howard. Kamala Harris, the vice president, she went to Howard. So I was like, there's so much historical like, figures at Howard. You know, Black Panther, the actor, he went to Howard and graduated from Howard too, Chadwick Boseman. So they have a lot of notable alumni. So I was like, okay, this is where my journey starts. And so that's really why I wanted to go.
Yeah. Was the application process difficult, or was like when you applied, like when you were doing the application process, you're like, no, this is okay?
I think the application process wasn't like super difficult. It definitely wasn't easy. Like you had to send a resume, you had to write like 2 different pretty long essays. I did not have to interview. I had to interview at some other schools, but for this master's program, I didn't have to interview. So a lot of it was based on your application, your essays, and then how you did in undergrad. Like they did take a holistic approach, but I wouldn't say it was overly difficult, but it's definitely not easy. It's basically just like applying to college. Like applying to college isn't easy, but like people do it. It was basically like that, I would say.
Yeah, I was definitely going to compare it to applying to college, where like it's different. It could be different for every school too, and like you have to do an essay probably, and like the demographic information, which is always pretty generic, like all that stuff. So it's not really. It is difficult, but it's more time consuming than anything else. Like you actually have to put in the time while you're still attending undergrad too. That's the thing. Yeah. You can't just take a break from your undergrad school to apply. You got to do it at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. It was hard. Yeah, I think I had to write like a statement of purpose.
Yeah.
And then one other, they were all kind of called the same, like they were all kind of the same thing, but it had to be broken up into 2, a personal statement.
Oh yeah.
Statement of purpose, like kind of similar, basically like tell me your life story. But yeah, that was the process for sure.
Yeah. Okay, I have so many questions, but I'm gonna ask like 2 more, if that's okay? Okay. I just love hearing about other people's stories. I don't know why. So let's talk about the statement of purpose now we're on that topic. Like, do you find that easy to talk about yourself or not so much? Like, do you find it cringy almost to talk about yourself?
I don't know if I find it cringy. I just feel there's so much to say. It can kind of be hard to put on a piece of paper, like who I am in like 5 to 6 pages or however long. I don't really remember how long it was, but like however long, it wasn't like 20 pages of like who I am. I kind of had to be concise and talk about growing up in Ashland and that experience for me, and then going to Hampton and like that really opening up my eyes to my community, like being African American. Ashland is obviously not diverse at all, so I had to like transition to that, and so I talked about that a lot, and that was kind of where I centered it around. But I wouldn't say it was cringy. It was more just hard to fit it all on a short paper.
And I can relate to that because I think we share the commonality of liking to talk. Like we like to share, and like obviously, like you said with your Instagram, you're sharing your experience. You like to reflect on things. And I think my grad school application only had 500 words for the personal statement. And I remember going right up to that limit, like exactly 500 words.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you prefer like the personal statement or do you prefer like an interview?
Ooh, low key, I feel like I prefer the interview. I feel like when people see me in person or they talk to, really not just me, anybody, I can really change people around. Like a college interview can really make or break. I think in-person conversations and just in-person energy is definitely way more powerful than just writing something.
Yeah,
I definitely say the interview.
Yeah. And I think not everyone thinks like that because interviews can be scary. I think the anticipation is the worst part of like, what are they going to ask? Are they going to like, I never know what they're going to do. But once I'm in it, I just feel like it's a conversation. Like they just want to get to know me and I need to get to know them kind of thing. So it's been a process, but I feel like over the last couple of years, I've realized that interviews shouldn't be as scary as they are made out to be. So,
absolutely.
And that will help us in our job search when we have to start looking for jobs after our grad program. So
yes, for sure.
Okay, I lied. One more question. About resumes, you brought it up a little bit. Did you have to update yours when you started applying to grad school, or did you continuously update it through your undergrad?
I continuously updated it through undergrad because I was applying to various, like I had internships over the summer.
Okay.
So I definitely had to like majorly upgrade it, I would say, like using Canva. Have you heard of
Oh,
Canva?
yeah. I love Canva.
Yeah, so I had to I used Canva to kind of make it refresh it up a little bit, but the content I was adding as I was doing all of my activities in undergrad, and kind of just like catering it and editing it to the different programs that I applied for.
Right.
So I would say I was upgrading it. I can't imagine trying to redo the whole thing.
Yeah. So that was what I had to do.
Oh no, that would have been.
Yeah. I had one class my sophomore year of undergrad that I had to make a resume. Like I had one, but it was after high school. So literally all that was on it was Stop and Shop. Like I literally had nothing to show for it. So I updated it sophomore year and I was like, okay, that's good. And I had like very little internship type things. I had field studies, which are in schools. Like I want to be a teacher someday. So like they were in schools, but it was part of my courses. So I didn't have to apply. It was just kind of like guaranteed that I was going to have a placement. So I didn't have to submit a resume or anything. So I was like, it's fine, whatever. And I worked at a summer camp, Ashland Recreation, actually, for a couple of summers. And they didn't require it. What did you say?
I worked there as well.
Did you? I'm literally wearing a shirt, Ashland Recreation.
Really? Yeah, I worked there for 2 or 3 summers.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah, it was time consuming. It was a lot.
Yes, it is a lot. Yeah.
A lot in the sun, but it was fun.
I agree. I think it was good for 2 summers, and now I'm like, okay, done. Like, I think it was a great experience. But
work, Alex.
What did you say?
It was a lot of work. Like these kids are like in your hands, especially when you go on the field trips. You're in the sun a lot. But I love those kids. I think I was like, how many summers? At least 3 I worked there. At least 3.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Well, so I applied in 2020, not knowing that COVID was coming around the corner. So I had to work there during COVID summers this year, like last year and this year.
Crazy.
Yeah. And we had to wear masks for the first year, not for 2021, as long as we were outside, which we were for most of the day. So we could luckily stay distant enough, and outside had different rules at the time. But like, I just remember thinking, like, how am I going to ask so many campers to put on a mask? Like, it was so hard. But
what were they not really wanting to?
I mean, at first they were like, "What?"
Don't think about it.
Yeah, exactly. They don't understand the bigger picture. But they were actually pretty understanding for the most part. I think as the older they get, the better they are. So like, obviously the 5-year-olds were like, well, I don't care. So we did the best we could. But yeah, great experience nonetheless. And I was actually the arts and crafts coordinator for the last summer. So it was like, I actually was not teaching, but like leading the art session kind of thing. I always
love to do the arts and crafts whenever we would volunteer. I don't know if we had a main coordinator when I was doing it, but I know that when we got to pick if we wanted to do sports or art, I would always pick art. So I would always be the one doing art. I loved. Plus, you got to be in the shade.
Yeah, exactly.
Do the crafts.
Yeah, I know.
Over the summers.
Yeah, I totally relate to that. Yeah. So, but anyway, I don't even know. Oh yeah. So I was saying like the camp didn't require me to submit a resume. I don't think. And if I did, I just submitted the undergrad one. But then I look when I had to apply for graduate school, and it was so outdated. Like I said, there was like barely anything on it. So I had to revamp it. I did actually go to Campa, and I kind of made it like I don't know. I just reformatted the whole thing. And I felt so much better that I knew that like I had a good resume behind, like to back me up, basically pushing forward.
100%.
Because I feel like resumes, like when you're in high school, it doesn't set in like what they do. Like I feel like we had one like seminar or something weird with our guidance counselor that was like, oh, you need to make a resume. It's really important. But it's like, why? Like I don't see the importance, but now I do, obviously. Like
yeah, I agree.
Okay, good. So that was like definitely took longer than I expected, but I'm glad that we got to dive a little bit deeper into that.
Me too.
Yeah. All right, so let's play our next game called Take a Spin Down Memory Lane. So the way this game works, it's new. I've never played it before. And I have this virtual spinner that I found online that each section will have a different year in it, and we're going to spin it. And then
Okay.
whatever year it lands on, we have to talk about what happened in that year, if we
Okay.
remember. All right. So let's give it a spin, see what happens.
Yay.
Ooh, 2019.
2019.
Okay. Do you have something ready or do you want me to go first?
That's sophomore year of college?
That is sophomore year of college, correct?
Okay. Yeah, you can go first. So
Okay. So yes, we were sophomore years in college, and I wrote down in my script, I didn't want to forget this, that I got to see a Broadway show in 2019. And I love theater. I've been involved with many theater productions and stuff. And that was the first time I've ever been on Broadway because the city always scares me. Like, I guess I can't talk to you about this, but New York City was like terrifying. Like, I hate loud crowds and people and stuff, but I love theater. So eventually my friends were like, you're coming, we're going to see a show. And I'm always grateful for them. They kind of like pushed me because my family is not theater people. I don't know where I came from, but everyone else is like, why do you like theater? It's not fun. They're more sporty. And I'm just like, but acting. So I got to see my first show. It's called Waitress. And it was like a very emotional show. I don't cry, and I didn't cry that day, but it was still like, oh, this is very heavy material. And but I was more impressed with the set because I'm a technical theater person. So like the set was able to be moved on and off stage without any people doing it. Like it was all automated, which is so cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
No,
so that's my memory.
A memory I have of 2019, I would say that was my best year of college.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because it was just so much fun. That's when I met my boyfriend, like little romance. That was so beautiful. That's when we met, was my sophomore year. So that's definitely like a major key. I said my favorite memory, because you brought up Broadway. So I would say my favorite memory was when I went to this concert in Virginia Beach. It was actually like this music festival, and it was called Something in the Water. And it was, Pharrell, the musician. Have you heard of Pharrell?
Yeah.
So he was from Virginia Beach. It was like his festival, and it was like a one-time thing because he like did it one time. It was so much fun. I'm not a crowds person either, so I was stepping outside of my comfort zone to go to this festival. And it was so much fun. We got a house like in Virginia Beach, and then we went to the festival and just like music and friends, and that was just really fun. So that's my 2019 memory.
Wow, very nice. Good. I remember my 2019 too was a good year for like progress, where I was nervous at college, even though I just went to Framingham State, the next town over from our hometown. I was still like, I didn't know anyone at first. Like it's college, right? So you still got to make new friends and stuff. So I remember 2019 being the year of like, I'm actually feeling comfortable where I am. I'm glad I chose Framingham State, kind of thing. So yeah. All right, back to the wheel. All right, you can still see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask every time. Okay. Oh, 2015.
2015.
I think this wheel is so fun. Okay. I'm definitely going to use this with my students. I don't know how yet, but I want to use that wheel. It's so fun.
You should. I'm slow. I'm like, what happened in 2015?
So we were juniors in high school during 2015.
Juniors in high school.
Right. And I have one if you want me to go first.
Yeah, you should go first. I wish I could look at my, you know how Snapchat has memory.
Oh my God, yeah.
2015. Yeah, you go.
Okay. So I think 2015 was the year that I was able to be, I performed, and I'm going to talk about theater again. We performed a play, and I acted in 3 plays in high school, and every time I was really nervous to do so because, one, memorizing lines is very stressful for me. Like, there's things I have to say to be funny or to make the scene go along, and if I forget it, then the whole thing's ruined, and the audience is watching us pretty much fail. So I was nervous leading up to it, but this play in specific was one of my favorites because it was the largest role I've ever received, but I'm not saying it was my favorite because it was so large, but like it just shows like I was able to connect with the character more than I've ever have before, in the sense that I read the script thinking like, what the heck, why did I get cast out of this guy? Like I have nothing in common with him, until my director, Mr. Harrington, do you remember him?
Yes.
So he talked with me, and he was just like, so I see that you haven't connected with the character yet, and that's okay, but think about how you can become the character. So rather than, he really put in perspective that I didn't have to take the script and think of like how I have to make the script me. Like, I don't know if I'm making sense, but like basically I could impact the show in a sense that I could put my spin on it, even though
Right.
the script didn't say it. Like, I kept the lines the same, obviously, but I could like change the character slightly to make it more personal. And of course, I made the character more childish. Like, he was like in his 20s probably, but he was a mama's boy. So like I hyped that up a lot, saying like
Yeah,
I should
that's
be like more
cool.
childish, and I always had fun with that. And then all the lines started to make more sense after that. Of like, oh, like he's holding a what's it called, bundle of roses for the character he wanted to be with, basically, and then he drops them and then sits on them by accident. So like all of those actions made sense to me. Of like, oh, like maybe he's like being like he's clumsy or something. So I was able to have fun with the physical comedy of it.
Oh,
So it was like a really good experience, and I didn't talk about it like well enough, but basically I went from not really liking to really enjoying it by the end of it because of my perspective. And I remember hearing compliments from people I didn't even know saying like I did a good job. So I always look back on that positively.
yes, that's nice.
Mhm.
I really don't even remember what happened in 2015. We were juniors in high school.
Mhm.
So I would say just my favorite sport is tennis.
Mhm.
I still play tennis. I've been playing like tennis and basketball, but I still play tennis right now.
Mhm.
And so I would say in 2015, I was definitely on the tennis team probably. And that was really fun in high school. And tennis is my favorite sport. So I'd say that tennis in 2015, high school
Yeah.
tennis.
Yeah, that's fun. I like tennis too. I actually picked it up after high school because my brothers and dad used to play like all the time. And I never got good at it because it is a skill, right? Like to hit the
Yeah.
ball in a certain way and stuff. And I always like, it's just not my sport, and that's fine. But then eventually something clicked and I started actually being able to do it. And so me and my dad one summer played like almost every day because we were like
Oh,
so
that's nice.
into it. So yeah, that's fun. I'm gonna skip the wheel because I want to talk about 2013 for a second. It's on the wheel, but I don't want to take a chance and not talk about it because I think it's really fun. 2013 is basically when we met because, okay, backstory, me and Sarah met, I think was when I was on EJ's basketball team, maybe.
Oh my goodness.
So you
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah, okay.
I forgot. I completely forgot.
That's why I wanted to bring it up because we technically met when EJ was in 5th grade, I think. I was in 8th grade.
Mhm.
Right? That's the math, right? So then I remember, and your dad was the coach,
Mhm.
and then you would go to
He
some
was.
games and stuff.
Yeah, he was. He
Yeah,
was.
he was
Very
one of my
intense,
favorite.
different coach.
Wait, what did you say?
I said he was very intense and
Oh,
different type of
but
coach.
yeah, but I think he was one of my favorites. I don't know, like I just remember thinking fondly, and it was so long ago, so I don't remember specifically why, but I remember the feeling of like, oh, he like gets me, like he's a good coach. So
Oh, that's great.
yeah, please tell him I said that, and tell him I say
I
hi. And your mom and your brother and everyone, but like and your dad. So anyway, so yeah, so we kind of met, but not really. Like you didn't even remember, so like it was very like little interactions. But then in 9th grade, because you didn't go to Ashland Middle School, did you?
No, I did not.
Okay, that makes sense. So then in high school, we were in the same homeroom teacher with Miss Istefan. Do you remember that? Maybe.
Yes. She was a bit eccentric, chemistry teacher, right?
Yes,
Yes.
definitely. She was unique, we'll say.
Yeah.
Not a bad thing. So what was crazy is that let's see, how do I phrase this? So we were in the same homeroom, and it was the first day of 9th grade, first day of high school for both of us, and we were getting our schedules. And you noticed that I had environmental science first block.
Mhm.
Do you remember this?
I don't. I
Okay.
know, but I want you to keep going.
Yeah. Okay. So I think this is what.
Environmental science. I do remember that.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So you noticed that, and then I guess you saw my name on my schedule, or you did remember from last year. I don't know what it was, but you said, "Oh, Alex, I noticed that you also have environmental science. Can we walk down together so then we don't get lost?" And I remember feeling so good about that because I was so nervous. Like, where the heck is this classroom? I have no idea. And so we walked down together. It was on the first floor, and it was, I'm not going to say your last name, but Cameron. Do you know who I'm talking about when I say Cameron?
Mhm.
So Cameron was the one that found both of us, and she's like, "Oh, it's this way, guys. I'm in that class too." So I was like, "Okay, good."
Yeah.
And then we also had history together with a good history teacher. Do you remember that teacher?
Roman?
No, it was Miss Daly. It was the one year you took honors.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember Miss Daly. Yep.
Right.
That was honors history.
It
Yep.
was honors history. Yep.
I remember that.
So like, I just wanted to bring that up because that was like the first interaction I feel like we had that like I remember specifically. And it hasn't changed. Like your niceness, like you reached out to me even though we didn't know each other that well. You were just like, I'm gonna connect with this guy because you probably were scared yourself, like I need to find my room, but you were also like, why don't I make a connection? Why don't I reach out to someone and create a friendship? Because we're still talking years later. So I think that's so cool.
No, that's very cool. That's what we're talking about, 2013.
Yeah.
But 2013 was before high school, right?
2013 was our first year of high school. So it was like
8th grade. Okay. First year of high school, yeah. I would say just going to Ashland High School, meeting people. I don't really think anything significant happened freshman year of high school, but I was just adjusting to going, because I went to a private school for middle school and elementary school. So I was just adjusting to having my house be so close to school. It was so convenient because I live in a neighborhood. Oh, I don't want to say where I live, but I live very close to Ashland High School. Yeah. So that was fun. That was fun. Walk, basically.
Yeah, no, it was very nice to be. I was also close by. Like I was able to walk. Not anymore, unfortunately. I don't live in Ashland anymore. So every time we talk about it, I get a little bit sad. That's not my home anymore, but it's a great town. All right, so we'll end there because, like I said, I wanted to talk about 2013, even if we didn't spin to it, because I think it's a great like year for both of us. That was like a new beginning almost.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so let's wrap up. The way I wrap up with my guests, and you can take as long as you want, Sarah. Like I said, I can edit out anything that if it takes too long. But I like to do a 3-2-1, which is a good teacher tactic too, where it's like an exit ticket almost, like before you go. And all it is 3 thankful thoughts, 2 today takeaways, and 1 ounce of optimism. And so I'll explain each of those. Where 3 thankful thoughts, obviously anything that you're thankful for at this moment. It can be little things, general things, specific things. And then the takeaways are things that we either talked about now or things that you're just like thinking about and reflecting on. And then the last thing is ounce of optimism, which is like encouraging things for our viewers and for myself. So like anything that motivates you that can also motivate anyone who's watching.
Okay. So my 3, what was it called? My
3 thankful thoughts.
Okay, so my 3 thankful thoughts are that I am thankful for friends, I'm thankful for family, and I'm thankful for my health and my safety, because I have been blessed to be healthy all throughout this pandemic. And I've gotten sick here and there, but I've just been healthy overall. And that's a blessing during times like these. So I would say my last thing is my health and my safety. My 2 takeaways. Is it from today?
From today, but also just like in general, if you don't have from today specifically.
I would say my 2 takeaways from today or in general are that I did not remember that you were on my brother's basketball team. And now that you said that, you 100% were. And like now I remember that. So I'm so thankful that you brought that up. And then another takeaway that I just really enjoyed was the high school environmental story. Because I do remember we had environmental science together. I do remember that, but I didn't remember that. I said that because I definitely was nervous. I definitely did not know I did not know a lot of people. It was a way bigger high school than where I went to middle school. And so I really enjoyed hearing that story. So those are my 2 takeaways. And then my 1, statement of optimism.
Ounce of optimism, because they start with O. Yeah.
Ounce of optimism moving forward. I guess for you and the viewers, is just to try and stay as positive as possible. Don't be too negative. Don't be too hard on yourself. Hard work gets you far. Just keep working hard. That's like what I tell myself. I'm a very hard worker. So hard work just pushes you forward. It gets you far. Always try and stay positive. Have faith in yourself and faith in something else, whatever you believe in. But I'm personally Christian, so me having faith definitely helps me move forward as well. And so that's what I would say.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this podcast for one, but also to catch up because like we said, it's been so long since we've actually just seen our faces because obviously this is virtual, but like better than nothing. So Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for working hard. Thank you for being empathetic too. Like I said earlier, like stay true to yourself. And best of luck with your next semester. Like, I don't want to talk about next semester yet because you're in your relaxing state.
Best of luck with your semester
Thank you.
too.
Appreciate it. But yeah, so I definitely want you to enjoy the holiday, get that family time, and then go into the next semester strong. So keep up the good work.
Yes.
All right. And then for my viewers, before I go, I always try to ask a question of the day. So my question of the day is, what is your favorite year and why? And obviously it could be any year because it's hard to choose. And so you don't have to ask it, or you don't have to answer my question because it's a lot. So ask my viewers to comment down below and then explain why in any way you want to do. I love it. And I also have an Instagram account for this podcast. It's called The Validating Channel because I feel like if I'm just a podcast account, then I can only post about podcast stuff. So I've kind of expanded it a little bit, but that will be in the link below. And you can email me. I don't know. I've seen other podcasts do this. They have an email account just in case if someone wants to mention something. So if you want to talk to me directly, thevalidatingpodcast@gmail.com. Send me an email. We can chat if you'd like. I think that's all I got. Again, follow Sierra's Instagram too. That's your reminder. Link in bio. And other than that, thank you. Sierra, any last words for our viewers?
Just be yourself, guys.
I love it. Simple, sweet, perfect.
Nothing's better than yourself.
Very true. Thank you again, Sierra. So thank you again for watching. I appreciate you viewing whatever you're doing right now. You are enough. You are valued. All that good stuff. Stay validating, whatever that means to you. And I will see you in 2 weeks. Bye, everyone.